going on, guys? Welcome to our first episode of the Skyguys podcast. My name is Morgan.
And my name's Nate.
Thanks for joining us today. We're really happy to be here to be kicking this thing off. We had our debut episode last week, and we go on like a weekend to weekend basis as far as our schedules allow us to be able to record this footage, but we've been eager to get back in here and do this. So with episode 1, breaking into the Skywalker saga, we've got it all. And today we're going to talk about the Phantom Menace, our general news, character deep dives, and another character matchup of the day that we're looking forward to. So how about let's go ahead and give a big shout out to our instrumentals and musical background provided by DJ Bartolini. You can find it on the SoundCloud link below. Big shout out to him and big thanks and appreciation. He's always doing some really awesome stuff. Great music. I've known him since I was, about this high. I don't know if you guys, but
you were a youngling.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. I was a youngling for sure. But we were both younglings when we met. But he's a great guy. Make sure to check him out on his SoundCloud. He's got great content. And as well as Nate's wife, she was ever so awesome to take the pictures of us. We went out to the beach this last weekend. My girlfriend and his wife, we all went together and we had a great time out there. We got some great footage and, had a great time with lightsabers, took all of our sabers. I mean, you could see his behind him and mine behind me. And we went out there, got some great footage, did a whole bunch of different stuff, shot a couple scenes. And the big thing is all the editing that she does in the videos that you're watching, and is the pictures that we'll be rolling through as I'm talking about it now, but either way, she's really good at what she does, and a big shout out to her. So
and she also helped me with the beginning of the videos here and the transitions to each segment we got. So big shout out to her. Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah, awesome. Because we had ideas, and then she was like, "Just stop. Let me take care of this." And
let me bring this to life for you guys.
She came in and she gave it the treatment it needed. So with that being said, that's what you guys should have in store for you for today's or tonight's episode, wherever you guys are and whatever it is you're watching. And how about this, Nate? You go ahead and take it away and tell them what some general news is about.
Some general news talk. This week or last week, depending on when this video gets posted, the Bad Batch series on Disney Plus finally got an official release date. Finally, we're so excited. I hope you all saw the trailer and are familiar with the Bad Batch arc from the Clone Wars. It is the exact same animation as the Clone Wars, and it is the premiere date of May 4th. So like the unofficial Star Wars day of the year. It's
the official Star Wars day.
Okay, the official day.
May the Force be with all of you.
That's right. So they are very, very interesting characters. And I from what the trailer portrayed, pause the video now. If you haven't seen it, go watch it and then pick this back up. From what I gathered,
we'll go ahead and put that link down below.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's do that.
If you guys haven't already seen it, go ahead and watch it.
There we go. Good point there. From what I gathered from the trailer, it looks like it kind of picks up at the very end of, maybe it coincides for the Ahsoka and Maul duel. They might be coinciding. They might be happening at the same time because it has the audio from Palpatine talking to the Senate when he's saying the Republic is reorganized into a galactic empire. So the interesting thing is, like, they're the Bad Batch, so they're defective, plain and simple. And my question is, does that mean their inhibitor chips are defective as well, or did they have them at all?
Very good point.
That's what I'm most curious. Did they even get affected by Order 66?
Right.
Because you see some action between them and clones. So it's gonna be an interesting one. I'm really, really excited what they're gonna do with it. I'm not sure how long or how many seasons, how many episodes it's gonna be, but it's gonna be a wild ride knowing Dave Filoni and what he can do. But
recently he's been on fire. Let's just say that for at least
from beginning to end of his Star Wars interactions, he's been on it, man.
Yeah, he definitely potentially deserves a seat on the Mount Rushmore of Star Wars figures as
Yes,
far
he
as like
does.
creators, right
You got
there
that
with
right. You
George
got
Lucas,
that right.
John Favreau,
Oh man.
and I say Timothy Zahn, but we're not going to go there.
that is another episode for another day.
There you go. But go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the Bad Batch.
Yes. We put out some stuff on Twitter, and somebody we will put his it's at Vader Thinks. He made a point on Twitter, and I actually researched this more, and I'm seeing the idea kind of snowball possibly. There's a theory going around that the Bad Batch was actually the ones that saved Grogu from the Jedi Temple during the Purge. So what do we think about that? Do you think that's what happened? That would be insane. Like how involved were they directly with the Jedi, like after they kind of went on their own during season 7, because Fives joined with them,
Right.
So they got a bunch of stuff going on. I know that's going to be nuts. So what do y'all think? Did the Bad Batch, were they the ones to save Grogu from the Purge? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you think.
Yes, let us know. And speaking of Twitter, we also put out a few extra polls out there this past week, and we're really excited to get some of the results. I'll go and let Nate tell us what those polls were, but we had a lot of people participate and a lot of good results. A few different ideas that I had, but I just wanted to see what you guys were thinking, and had a couple of inspired by a few of us from within and a couple outside thoughts. So Nate, go ahead and take it away.
You put out some good ones. I had a lot of fun looking at the results. The first one, which was also inspired by Vader Thinks. The first one was, and I'll put them on the screen here as we're talking about them. Which series do you think, or would you like to see the bounty hunter Cad Bane return to the most?
One of my personal favorites, Cad Bane.
Yes, I would say he's more of a fierce bounty hunter than he's probably the most fierce bounty hunter. I would say personally,
very callous, very, very unforgiving,
conniving. He's the man to go to.
So what series do we have to pick between?
We had the Bad Batch. We had Kenobi, Lando, and the Book of Boba Fett. And the Book of Boba Fett took that win, leaving the others way behind.
And I'd have to say that's a big testament to the fact to the unfinished arc those two had, where some like to claim that Boba Fett killed Cad Bane, but it was never concluded. We never found out if Cad Bane survived or died. But we do know that the dent in Boba Fett's helmet came from Cad Bane. So they both got a little taste, of war from each other, and then they went their separate ways with no conclusion. So,
and if he did come back in the Book of Boba Fett, there'd be a lot of questions to answer, like what he was doing between the last time we saw him in the Clone Wars to then. So, right, but I think that would be the most interesting in the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, honestly, I think he could appear in more than one.
Oh, I mean, with the Bad Batch, he's a very relevant time period.
Yeah.
So he could be right then and there.
He would be thriving in that chaos just with the rest of them.
Yes, most certainly. But take us on to the next one. This, I believe, was your poll suggestion, and yes. I had really fun doing this one.
Yes. And this is a simple yes or no poll. It is: do you think Ahsoka and Maul could have beaten Palpatine if they had joined forces? And the majority, this one was a lot closer. I mean, because it was just two choices in this one, but yes actually won out on that, and I tend to agree with them on that one. I could see it going both ways, but I think it would be, the element of surprise would be hugely in favor of Maul and Ahsoka, just and not to mention just those two joining up in general would just take Palpatine off guard, I think. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely one to think about. We definitely want to know what your guys' thoughts in the comment section below and or on Twitter. But when it comes to my thoughts, that is a razor close battle. We saw what Maul and Savage were able to, attempt to do in defending themselves against. See, the thing is, Palpatine was 100% on the offense when he went against Maul and Savage. But with Maul and Ahsoka, on the other hand, I think Ahsoka beats Savage at the end of the day. And with the chemistry that they could potentially have, I've always ever since Maul kind of proposed the idea to take Ahsoka under as I don't know,
An ally,
apprentice, if you will. And
yeah.
an ally, if you will. That already sparks oh my goodness, just imagine those two and what they could do and accomplish.
And she was this close to joining, this close.
Yes. I
She
mean,
just had to ask about Anakin.
yeah, I had to lose it. But regardless, I think it would be razor close. I would like to say yes. I agree with you. I would like to see the Emperor fall by the hands of Maul and Ahsoka, because that's essentially your favorite and my favorite coming together, in a sense. So to be able to overthrow the old bag once and for all, But either way, let us know what you guys think in the comments, yes or no, if you guys agree with that, if you think how it could happen or why Palpatine would just be able to completely stop this from happening. Let us know.
Yeah.
But I think we
got
a couple more.
We got one more to talk about right now.
Okay.
And these four enter the battlefield. Which one is the last standing? And we have Anakin, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Count Dooku. Ooh. And this went back and forth for a good while. Actually, I was able to keep up with this one. Win. Yeah, and Obi-Wan won out by a little bit from the amount of votes that came in to how close it was. I want to say it was only by maybe 1 or 2 votes, I would say. I personally disagree with this. I think
was when we were talking about it earlier, I believe we both kind of agreed on the same level, because like you were saying, it was back and forth because it went from Anakin to winning, to Mace Windu to winning, to Obi-Wan coming out of nowhere and taking it. I mean, think about it. You can't sleep on Count Dooku at the same time, because we've seen Count Dooku take out multiple people at once. But at the same time, what you're getting to, I personally had to choose Mace Windu to go over.
I agree.
And I mean, he's, then again, we haven't seen, besides the fact that he was able to take on Palpatine by himself. We were talking about it, that is a milestone 10 times overfold. So
he beat Palpatine by himself.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I
mean, either way, let us know what you guys think in the comments, because that is a back and forth, and you can talk about it, have great reasons.
We could do a whole episode on that alone.
Yes, those four, how and who it goes first and why. So let us know in the comment section. And we had one last poll that we did, and I'll go ahead and take this away real quick, because this is going to take us kind of into what we're going to be talking about next, more or less. But we did a character deep dive poll, and we wanted to know who you guys wanted us to talk about this week when it comes to our character deep dive. So we have between Kit Fisto, Darth Maul, FN2187. Who was the fourth one?
It was Boba Fett.
And it was really close between I think Kit Fisto and Boba Fett and Maul went back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think Maul ended up coming away with it a little ahead. And Darth Maul is our character deep dive of the week. So stay tuned a little bit here at the almost at the tail end of the episode. We're going to do him right before our matchup of the day. But before that, we're going to get into his debut to the silver screen. And that is our introduction to the Skywalker Saga. So with that being said, Nate, go ahead and take us away with the Phantom Menace. Oh, man, I can't wait.
All right, guys, we're going to get into the beginning of the Skywalker Saga from the Skyguys' point of view. Of course, the true beginning of the Skywalker Saga starts off with the Chancellor's ambassadors coming to negotiate with the Trade Federation on Naboo. Now, the actual first point I got to make is, and maybe one of y'all know the answer to this. Why did they feel the need to say they were ambassadors, and why didn't they say, hey, we're sending Jedi on as the Chancellor's ambassadors?
Yeah, what's the need for the deception there?
I mean, maybe they were. Maybe they were truly ambassadors, or like what? But it was kind of deceptive.
You know, essentially they could be ambassadors of peace, and justice, but like to phrase it like that and completely hide the fact that you're a Jedi. That's a good point you bring up.
Yeah. So, all right. So you go in, and they're waiting for the negotiations to start, which they obviously knew was going to go poorly, which maybe that's why they disguised themselves, or disguised that they, to not give away they were Jedi to begin with, because
Qui-Gon was on that the whole time. He knew that something was up as soon as they landed, or even before they landed.
It was probably before. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. Qui-Gon was like a step ahead of him. It seemed like the entire time, knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously things went sideways very quickly. Viceroy, you get introduced to Viceroy Gunray, and then they try to smoke him out, or you're using a gas of some sort. I can't quite remember the name of it off the top of my head.
It's a Dioxis.
Yep, that's it, Dioxis. Thank you. So they escape that, and they're trying to break through to get to the Viceroy, I guess, to get aggressive negotiations started. At
that point things had kind of gotten out of hand on both sides.
And then obviously the droidicas show up. That is long awaited by Newt Gunray and all his peeps in there. Mm-hmm. And then I get to my second point. Why was the force ability that they used to get away, for lack of better words, we'll just call it force speed.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's when they basically got overwhelmed by the droidicas, who are able to produce these shields and also fire simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And they can fire it like mass amounts within a short amount of time. And Obi-Wan realized that these guys were not going to make it through the door they were trying to get through. Mm-hmm. So instantaneously, you see them soink, gone. And
that's about how it was. Exactly how that sounded.
But like you were about to say, where's that ever again?
Because you all know what I'm about to say. I'm mm-hmm. sure some of you do.
Right.
There's a pivotal scene in this same movie that would have been that ability would have been extremely useful for Obi-Wan Kenobi to use. But why was it never used ever again?
Right. Yes.
But across the entire saga and before and everywhere in between, it was never used again. So that was always very bizarre to me and like a head scratcher. But maybe there's a reason behind it.
Maybe so. Who knows? If you guys have any ideas, let's hear about it in the comment section. But that's always a great point to bring up. So they warped away and were able to get away from these droidicas and the battle droids chasing after them. Unfortunately, their original ship that got them there was destroyed. In the process, they found out that that where their ship was, and I think the Vulture ships turned on them, or I forget who it was, but the ship itself was destroyed from within by the Federation.
I believe it was just cannons within the entryway to the.
In the loading bay.
Yeah, in the loading bay. Area. I'm pretty sure it was just cannons just in there.
Okay.
But yeah,
either way, that left Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon to improvise to get another way off the ship and take them to Naboo. Now, how was it they got from off the ship to Naboo again?
I don't think you really saw exactly how they got down there.
I was going to say, I was trying to remember.
You really don't really see how they do, or
don't they?
Just think of it?
I feel like I know what it is. Don't they make it onto the actual the ship that launches those guys off? They basically
actually, yeah, I think so.
So they ended up stowing themselves on one of the battle droid ships that was going or set to deploy on Naboo, mm-hmm. which then that's how they made it down to the planet.
Because it was a very quick segue. You just see Qui-Gon running in the jungles of Naboo.
Right. It all happens so fast.
Where he stumbles upon Literally, quite literally, Jar Jar Binks.
Yes. Or
Our
no.
favorite Gungan. Yes or no. So now Jar Jar Binks is indebted because he got his life saved.
Yeah, that's
And
one of the worst customs, let's be honest. For the sake of it being Jar Jar, if it could have been anyone else. No, but all right. So in all seriousness, Jar Jar, he has his life saved by Qui-Gon. And like Nate was saying, to the Gungan custom, he is now indebted in servitude to Qui-Gon to basically, help
repay him, yeah.
Yeah, in whatever way he needs. So at first, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, don't really, they're just like, get me away from this guy. This guy's annoying. And then they start to realize, hey, there's a lot of droids around here, and we're probably going to die if we try to go anywhere on the planet's surface itself. And realizing that he's a Gungan, what do they do after that, Nate?
They go to their underwater city.
That's right.
And are able to escape the droids, the impending doom. Now, if they were going to cover the entire ground or not, it's kind of hard to say.
Right.
But they got down, which I thought was really cool. Like, have the underwater city.
That is
a whole
really
different
cool. I'm not
species.
gonna lie. Yeah. What is the name of the city?
I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I can look it up real quick, just to confirm that. But it was a very, very cool thing to see. It's a fresh take on Star Wars.
It's called
oh, you already got it.
Odo Gunga.
I don't remember hearing the name in the movie.
It's simply known as Gungan City or Odo Gunga. Yeah, so okay. Odo Gunga.
And we learned that the Gungans are very receptive to Jedi mind tricks in this as well.
Yes, they are.
Because old Boss Nass, Qui-Gon used a couple of Jedi mind tricks on him, and to the very stout confusion of Jar Jar Binks, they get out. They were able to take Jar Jar with them.
Because
saving his life for a third time.
That's right, because backing it up a little bit, Jar Jar was in a lot of heat with the Gungans. He had been exiled for his let's just say, for lack of better word, stupidity, because they don't really go into it. They just say he was very irresponsible. There you go, clumsy.
Yeah.
And so he had been essentially exiled, so they were going to probably torture him or there's no telling what they're going to do to him. Yeah. So Qui-Gon saved his life again, thus sealing the servitude of Jar Jar and sealing his fate within being an important figure in the trilogy of the prequels.
Yep, absolutely. So they get out, and let's see what's next after they run into some fish underwater.
That's right. They have these there's like this giant huge fish. It looks like one of those angler or one of the things that has the thing dangling in front of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not even kidding you, it looked like Godzilla showed up and ate him. So he just completely ate him. Which, I mean, these are all, and quote Qui-Gon, there's always a bigger fish.
Metaphorically and literally in this case.
Yes, or whatever that monster was. And then they escape like this giant eel looking thing, which was insane. It's kind of like an eel platypus, nightmarish fish.
Nightmarish is the perfect way to put it.
Yes. So then they finally escape all the trenches and the abyss, from down in the depths to make it to the surface, making it right smack dab in the middle of Naboo, right where they need to be, to then begin their rescue mission to get the Queen, Padme Amidala, or no, Queen Amidala, excuse me, and the rest of her, what's call it, her cabinet of political figures and a security team out of there.
Yeah, because by this time they've actually been captured by the Trade Federation and the battle droids.
Right.
So they go in, they rescue her, and then they take. That's when they bring him. They freed all the pilots in there, or all the people in the hangar that were captured, and then they got her to Coruscant. That was their plan, to get to Coruscant. And they were trying to get through the blockade.
Mm-hmm.
Which went poorly. They got damaged real bad.
Big rough patch had to go through there. A lot of heat.
But we got introduced to R2D2.
That's when he comes out along with another fleet of R2 units, to which R2D2 comes through and is the last one standing.
Last man standing. And so our fearless little R2 was introduced.
Yes, great introduction, by the way. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. But couldn't repair it enough to get a Coruscant, so they had to stop him on the infamous Tatooine.
Right.
So they set out to try and get parts to fix their ship. I think it was Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, and the Queen's handmaiden, right?
Yes, correct.
Set out to get the parts, and they come across a very interesting little creature. His name is Watto, who owns this shop, and he has what turns out to be a slave boy, and his name is Anakin Skywalker.
Ding 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 ding.
Ding ding ding. Yeah. So basically, there's some back and forth, and Anakin says that he can win a pod race to win money, and it was enough to buy the parts to.
Because essentially, Qui-Gon and the crew, Qui-Gon, Padme, and who was the crew that went?
It was Qui-Gon, Padme, and Jar Jar.
That's right, those three. Qui-Gon's biggest mission was to acquire the parts to then fix the ship, the necessary part of the ship, to then get them to Coruscant. So unfortunately, they didn't have the capital on them to afford this part right offhand.
The correct capital.
Right. Yes. But fortunately, with the timely race right around the corner, and the fact that young Anakin Skywalker has already, actively participated in these events before, unfortunately, he hasn't had much luck with any, considering he hasn't finished any of these races, but he's very willing and able to be able to participate in this pod race to potentially get them the money they need to buy this part, to fix the ship, to get back to Coruscant. So with that being said, Anakin has to ask permission from his mama first.
Yeah.
So,
she is not very privy to it, but
right.
She does. She says that he can do it.
Right.
And while that's going on as well, Qui-Gon makes a deal with Watto to free Anakin, or either him or his mother, to free them if he wins.
Right.
And Qui-Gon does his little trick there,
on the dice roll,
yeah,
because they roll a chance cube, because of course Watto wouldn't let both of them go. He can only let one or the other, so he had a chance cube with either red or blue, and based off of a previous test that Qui-Gon had did a few scenes before, he had some suspicions about Anakin being quite able, more able than the average human, or the average, species, should I say, of any kind, but, more able. And with that being said, he sent a blood sample to Obi-Wan to test his midichlorian count. And for those of you who are familiar, the midichlorians is basically the way to measure your capabilities as far as your power within the Force. And based off of this blood sample, they received astounding results that read numbers over even Master Yoda's numbers. So this is referring to Anakin's results. So based off of that, going to that chance cube scene, Qui-Gon wanted to take Anakin with him. If he had to choose between the two, Anakin, what was he, 9 years old?
He was 9 at the time, yes.
9 years old. So at that point, the scene has been set up. If Anakin is able to win this pod race, he will, be freed from slavery from Watto and be able to go with Master Qui-Gon Jinn and, his Padawan, Obi-Wan, to basically embark on becoming a Jedi. But he has to win the pod race first. Yep.
And he, actually, a quick side note about the pod race whole scene. I actually came across this on TikTok recently, this week actually. There was, and this is a fact, and the question was, which movie had the most models, miniatures, whatever you want to call them, to shoot a movie or to shoot one of the Star Wars movies. And because like all the original trilogy, all the walkers, all the big ships, all that was models, and they shot it in a way for everything to just look bigger than what it was, larger than life. And the actually answer is the Phantom Menace, based on the pod race scene alone.
Right.
And
I can imagine that.
the grandstands where all the people were from the faraway shots were actually Q-tips. They were painted
Wow.
Q-tips in the stands, and that I think it was 250,000 individually painted Q-tips to represent people in the stands of this shot. So that takes the top spot of the amount of models in one shot of Star Wars.
That is definitely a super interesting piece of trivia. I did not know that. Thanks for sharing that. Because I would definitely figure, just based off of beforehand, like you were saying with the original trilogy, how they used him with the Imperial March and things like that. When you had all those stormtroopers, it would be easy to pull something like that off. But to use it in the stadium or the stands like that, definitely gives you more opportunity to use more figures. But
and you knew the original trilogy utilized a lot more CGI than the originals did. So that's cool piece of little information. Yes. If I'm able to find the certain TikTok or where I found that, I'll put it below. That might be looking for a needle in a haystack though, but we'll see if I can find it.
A cool piece of little thing we glossed over when we met Anakin and his mother Shmi Skywalker. We also were introduced to C-3PO.
Yes, we were. Thank you.
Yeah, so Anakin, created C-3PO because he's always very savvy with creating, anything. Just he's wanted to keep his hands on something, working with something to keep him busy.
Very mechanically inclined.
Yeah, so nothing wrong with that, especially considering everything he's going through. Why not try to build a robot that could talk to you?
That's right. So we see the origin of R2 and we see the origin of C-3PO all in one film right here. So that was a very, very cool.
Yes, very wholesome, especially when they come together later in the scene, which we'll probably end up getting to in our second episode, part 2 of this 2-episode series when it comes to the Phantom Menace. They met with C-3PO. They basically got the blessing from Shmi to be like, okay, well, Anakin can do it. If that's the only way you're going to be able to get the money to get off of this planet, or to at least get the parts to get your ship off this planet and get on the path that you need to be on. So they get the parts together to build Anakin's pod racer. They do all this, and they have a couple run-ins with who seems to be the antagonist of the pod race, and his name is Sebulba, big jerk. Obviously no one likes him. A complete cheater as well. He can't win without cheating, or at least without playing dirty. So even if it means killing other people in the pod race, which we see later within the pod race itself, he is willing just to crash anyone else, and do whatever it takes to for glory.
Yep, that's it. So was he really the best, or did he just play dirty to get where he needed to be?
Yeah, he was the best at playing dirty.
There we go.
But so with all that leading up to our big scene, we've had someone watching this whole time. Who's been watching this whole time? It has been an agent sent directly by Emperor Palpatine himself, and the agent I'm referring to is the apprentice Darth Maul. And he's been established as our apprentice, who's underneath of Darth Sidious, who's this cloaked figure who's seeming to be pulling the strings ever so slightly but surely from behind everything. But we haven't seen too much of them, only a couple hologram appearances with them talking to the Viceroy and making a couple contacts back and forth. They do show a little bit of dialogue between Palpatine, or should I say Sidious, or should I say both, whichever you prefer. But between Sidious and Maul, they do show one piece of dialogue between the two, and it basically establishes the fact that the Sith are ready to make their mark on history again. So with that being said, it's just only a matter of time, and Maul has been sent after these the group. He's been tracking them from afar. He's found them on Tatooine, and he's been surveying the entire situation via basically these monitoring droids that he's sent out.
Yep, little probes.
Yep, yeah. It's he's been watching it all. So now we have the pod race, and this is going to be the end sequence for this Phantom Menace segment. We're going to go ahead and talk about the pod race itself, and we'll go and sum it up for lack of better words, because it's a 3-lap typical race, around let's face a very dangerous and hectic course between ravines, cliffs, all sorts of hills. You have Tusken Raiders who are firing their rifles downward upon you, and an awesome cameo from Aura Singh.
Yep, split second.
Yeah, there she is up there. If you're familiar with the Clone Wars series, you do see her more often than that, featured, pretty well. She's very well connected with Boba Fett and the Fett family.
Yeah, and we see our only prequel shot of Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna,
correct,
who
right,
starts the race.
That's right. They're up there, and who would be a better political, or let's see, who's the most famous figure on Tatooine at that point? And
it's got to be him.
And for the past hundreds of years, the Hutts have ruled, Tatooine in general. So at the time period, Jabba the Hutt is the guy with his number 2 Bib Fortuna, featured ever so awesomely in the basically the VIP booth up there, just chilling. So you get a couple cool cameos right then and there. And speaking of cameos, while we're on this pod racing scene, like you were telling me earlier, go ahead and there was a little piece of information that fast forwarding all the way to the Mandalorian you were talking about. When we're talking about pod racing scenes, what could possibly be something that makes it to the Mandalorian from all these years?
Yes,
what makes it?
Our boy at episode 1 of season 2 of Mandalorian.
All right.
What was his name? Cobb Vanth.
Cobb Vanth.
Yes.
That's his name.
He was wearing the Boba Fett armor, if you remember, in the first episode of season 2, and
right.
There's a shot where him and Mando were on speeders going to a destination. We won't go too much into it, but his speeder was one side of a pod racer,
right?
And it looked an awful lot like Anakin's, if I'm being totally honest.
And they're both on Tatooine, so it's very possible, with pod racing being, popular on Tatooine at the time, it could have been salvaged from some sort of, left behind wreck or just there. Because I think after the race was done, Anakin didn't have anything to do with that,
Yeah, because he sold it.
What actually happened. Right, so either way, it's a very good point. So going back in time to where the Phantom Menace, we are with the pod racing scenes, it kicks off and everything. Unfortunately, Sebulba had already tampered with the pod racer itself, so Anakin had a terrible start, but he manages to catch up by about halfway through the second lap. So he's had to take the whole first lap to catch up, and by halfway through the second lap, he's already caught back up to where he needs to be. So beginning the third and final lap is where potentially the real race really starts to kick off, and that's where him and Sebulba have basically the entire strip left to themselves. Going back and forth, especially through the ravine. Sebulba almost thinks he has it at one point, to the point where he makes a notable head away from Anakin, but Anakin's able to pull it off by channeling, because he actually messed up his pod racer and halfway through the race, so he had to resort to actually using the energy from one pod to the other, and just resourcefulness from Anakin led to him catching back up to Sebulba, getting in to the side by side position, to which then now did Sebulba end up wrecking at the end of the race?
He did.
That's right. So one event led to the other, and Sebulba ends up crashing thanks to Anakin basically pulling an Ole, basically an old trick of Sebulba's on Sebulba himself, leading Sebulba to crash, and he's like, "Poodoo!" Yeah.
We can only say it was a curse word of sorts in whatever language.
Yeah, that was as close as you can get to a baddie word in the Star Wars universe. That's like the dank ferric of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But anyways, Anakin wins. There he goes. He wins the pod race, and he goes on to claim the credits to then be able to purchase the item to then get them off of Naboo, but not before someone shows up to say hey for the first time. Go ahead and tell us about that, Nate.
Do we want to say it, or do we want to wait until next one?
You know
You
what?
wanna
We're gonna
say
go
it?
ahead and wait for that. Yeah. You know, you all. I mean, if familiar with the film, you know who you know who
We know
shows
who we're
up.
talking about. Yep, our old boy shows up. So we're gonna,
Yes, he does.
yeah, Darth Maul shows up. We'll
And
tease
that's where
that a
we'll
little
leave
bit.
it.
We'll
Darth
leave it
Maul
there.
shows up.
We'll dive deep into that to that fight on
So that being
the
said,
second episode.
that's the gonna be the end segment of our Phantom Menace part of this episode. That is this kind of, because we're gonna split this up into two parts, because we can obviously sit here and run through this, but we don't want to make this segment as any longer than it already has been. But based off of that, if you guys have any comments based off of anything mentioned within the segment that you guys just heard or listened to, be sure to feel free and mention them in the comments below. Any ideas, thoughts, how you guys felt about certain scenes from that first half of the movie. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and post your comments there. If you guys have any questions or any ideas about something you'd like for us to talk about those scenes. But with that being said, you know, with all this talk about Maul and him being our character deep dive pick of the week,
Yes.
then I don't see a better way to segue into our character deep dive. This will be our first character deep dive. So Nate's going to end up taking this away from us when it's time, and now it's time. So
It is
Nate,
time.
take it away.
Yeah, we're getting into this real quick, so stick around. We're going to deep dive into Maul next. All right, guys, we are in our very first character deep dive. And like I said, we are talking about Maul today. And I'll put the results of the poll right there. And he won by a good amount at the very end of it. So Morgan, take away this segment right here, and let's get into Maul.
So I'm going to go ahead and be straight with y'all. Darth Maul is my personal favorite Sith character in all of Star Wars. So I am super excited and stoked to be able to crack open this can of worms and talk about.
Yeah, look at that behind you. I mean, I bet it is.
Yeah. Whose are these? Yeah, I got a couple of Darth Maul merch. You know, I just got this guy. This is the Clone Wars Maul, and I really like this guy. But you know, just had to keep him out for the the occasion for us talking about Maul. But I got, of course, got the sabers back here. You know.
Yes, sir.
Look at glory. Oh, accidentally cut a hole through the wall. Anyways, Darth Maul. Where do we start? Let's start from basically as far back as we know from him. So
let's do it.
Maul kind of has a when it comes to being a Sith, which most of the Sith's lives are a more of a depressing and darker path, you know, for lack of better words. But Maul started off at a young age as, you know, on the planet of Dathomir. He was a Zabrak, or I believe that's how you pronounce it, Zabrak, which already off the bat, if you know about Zabraks in general, they are like almost a time and a half more durable than your average human.
Very fierce.
Like very, very, yeah, and very aggressive. You know, not the most civil, you know, very, very almost primal people. So you know, and they love to fight in battle. It's, you know, their pride to actually, you know, just combat, and they live and breathe combat. So already Maul was, you know, born in a very combative situation under Mother Talzin. You know, Mother Talzin is essentially his biological mother. You know, that's, you know, she has claimed that. I believe in the Clone Wars series, she kind of claims that he is her son. Which I know she has many children. There's children of Talzin, but I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, stated that he is her son essentially. So coming from a very wicked line of you know, beings with and being so associated with Mother Talzin, Sidious comes to Dathomir at a very young age of Maul's, actually wanting to talk to Talzin about potentially making her his apprentice, but then finds Maul, and it immediately catches Sidious's eye, and there goes the idea of Talzin being his apprentice, and immediately wants to take Maul. And you know, proposes a deal, that if I take, Maul, we can, work out a deal later in life, and you guys can be protected and looked after by my kind, yada yada, which Talzin, took the deal. So Maul goes with Sidious at a very young age, and from there, has been trained his ways. Maul, probably trains with Sidious for 10 years, I'd say, close to 10 years.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because if he was taken around the age of 10, I would say Maul is around 25, around that age, or maybe 24, 25 in episode 1 that we just touched base on. And so by the time episode 1 comes around, he is fully amped up, charged, and ready for some action. He's been training essentially his whole life for this one battle that will take place at the tail end of episode 1. Now, without getting into it too much, because we're going to be talking about it in our next episode, and we don't want to spoil too many of the events, but a certain situation at the end of episode 1, where Maul encounters both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, leaves Maul in a very, very messed up position where he is sent down a shaft, a very, very long shaft, in 2 whole pieces. Unfortunately, Maul ends up finding himself chopped directly down the middle, and he goes down the shaft, to which then we end up finding out that shaft is essentially, for lack of better words, almost like a garbage disposal. Well, let's just be honest. So that shaft ends up taking him to a larger disposal of, trash and parts, to which then all of that is taken to the planet of, I'm not mistaken, Lothos Minor.
Yeah,
that's the name of, it's essentially a galactic trash planet.
Yeah.
Which I'm not gonna lie, that's a very, very sensible idea. I think we should all invest in that. It's a galactic trash.
Just put it all there. Yeah.
Just send all your trash to Pluto.
And he has left there for a long time.
And so go ahead and take us away, because this is where I know you're a huge fan of the Clone Wars, and this is where we're starting to get into that part. So when it comes to Darth Maul and him actually getting introduced in the Clone Wars, if you guys are familiar with that series and you guys know anything about that, you'll know then and there, that's when Maul makes his resurgence. Yes. How does he do that, Nate?
He well, first of all, Count Dooku revisits Dathomir to get a second apprentice or an assassin to replace Asajj Ventress. So he winds up taking Maul's brother, Savage Opress. Not to get too deep into it, but Savage, he leaves Dooku and Ventress, and he goes out on his own to find his brother. Yes. Under the guidance of Talzin. So she gives him a device that kind of will guide him to find Maul. So it leads him to the trash planet, as stated. What? Say it again one more time.
Lothos Minor.
Thank you. And he finds Maul, but in a very, very shattered state of mind.
Yeah, I think it's been what, 7 years? How many years?
It's been
7, 8.
No,
years?
It's been 10. It's been 11. It probably, because it was 10 years between episode 1 and 2.
Okay. So then there you go.
It had to have been anywhere between 10 and 12 years, I would say.
He's been potentially on this trash planet for 10, 12 years with basically no legs, or trying to do whatever he can to gather a bottom half to his body. So how's he done that?
Yeah, it's not really said how he does it, but he kind of forms together it's almost like a whole spider-like body.
It is quite intimidating.
It is quite a sight. His horns are very grown out. He's in rough shape. He hasn't
been to the barber lately. So.
No, he has not. He's in a very, very bad state. But one thing remains in his mind, and that is his hatred for the Jedi, which took his legs.
Right. That's what essentially
that fuels
kept him alive the entire time. It basically proves right then and there, if anything is truly powerful within the Sith, it is the fact that the hatred alone can keep them alive in the most improbable of situations.
Yep. So he's brought back to Dathomir, and he is restored to his former mindset for sure. And he's given a better set of legs. cybernetic legs.
So at this point, he's resorted
Mhm.
back to having 2 legs,
Yep.
similar to what his original being looked like.
Yep, and he basically takes Savage, his brother, under his wing.
Right.
And he's completely aware that the Clone Wars was supposed to start. So he is like, Savage told him that it started, and he's like, oh yeah. So he knows what the deal is. So he's all caught up, but his sole thing is to get revenge on the Jedi that took him down. And he made a statement and sent it to the Jedi, and that was to bring our old friend Obi-Wan Kenobi to him.
Correct.
And that was by taking the lives of innocent, and that is enough to get Jedi attention.
Oh, absolutely. That'll get their attention every time.
So they get Obi-Wan there. Obi-Wan underestimates the power of him and his brother combined.
Right.
And they take him down. But Maul, instead, Maul is he wants to do things certain ways.
Right. It would be too easy to just revenge his, because you gotta think, like we've said, Maul spent 10 years, more than 10 years of his life without, like, in a mental state that almost no one can compare to.
Mm-hmm.
After losing what was potentially his right to, or his claim to the throne of the Clone Wars. I mean, he was, he knew all about it. He was supposed to be almost in the driver's seat of everything.
He was the guy.
Yeah, he was in the spotlight, the Imperial, basically the Imperial spotlight, and had it all taken away by essentially Obi-Wan. So at this point, it would be it would not be justifiable to him to just only kill Obi-Wan, to which I'll go ahead and say he had multiple chances to kill Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had incapacitated Obi-Wan at least 2 to 3 times, to the point where he could have killed him, but instead he wanted to torture him. To which we can unfortunately admit that out of all of Maul's glory and greatness and his physical prowess, his biggest flaw is his hubris, and the fact that basically his own ego will end up getting the best of him within battle, because he'll get to the point where he gets too complacent, or he believes he's doing he's got the upper hand, which, let's be honest, that is a notorious Sith flaw. But with Maul, it seemed to be his predominant biggest flaw.
Yep.
As far as especially based off the scenes depicted not only episode 1 but the Clone Wars as well, you will see that he is let the best of his ego get the ego get the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with that all being said, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Continue.
So Obi-Wan ends up escaping, with in a couple multiple instances from the clutches of Maul and Savage. And with that all being said, at this point, with all that happening, Palpatine, aka Sidious, has caught wind of Maul's resurgence and basically being alive. Well,
he doesn't think too much of it for a while, because but yep, Maul, he decides he's gonna set out on he wants to get his own power.
Right. So Maul ends up proceeding into doing one of the most awesome things ever, and taking over Mandalore. He comes out of nowhere and says, you know what? I don't want to do anything with the Jedi. I don't want anything to do with the Sith. I'm going to do it on my own terms. And I'm going to go through, for lack of better words, the most badass approach I can go through. And I'm going to go straight to the top, and I'm going to say, hey, Previzula, I challenge you for the throne of Mandalore in a battle to one-on-one to see who can do it. And, based off of tradition, Previzula had no say in denying him. Maul challenged him, rightfully so, through traditional combat, and in a awesome back and forth, if I might say so myself, battle between Previzula and Darth Maul, or at this point, Maul, between Vizsla and Maul, very, very close fought, but at the same time, Maul seemed to have he was on point every stage in that fight, and all the way up until the end, to where he was able to get the upper hand on Vizsla, and then basically ceremoniously decapitate him. After Vizsla, has one of the most awesome send-off lines. Go ahead and say it for us, Nate.
Only the strongest will rule.
And
I think Maul kind of underestimated Previzula just a little bit.
Absolutely. Previzula was very, very, I mean, it wasn't an easy fight for Maul, because I think Maul, from what we can see and know, Maul didn't really use the Force much, if all, that fight, because that's the whole tradition, to prove that he could, in saber to saber combat, take on Vizsla, which let's be honest here, as soon as Vizsla's jetpack kind of got dismantled,
it was over.
It was not good for him. And,
it was over.
That was half to most of Vizsla's game plan out the window.
Yep.
So as Maul claims the throne of Mandalore, it kind of severs right down the middle of the allegiances of Mandalore from within. So that kind of puts a shattered state on the Mandalore, where Maul is now leading from behind the curtain through what's the name of the
Prime Minister Almec.
Prime Minister Almec. He leads through him basically as the
face of Mandalore. Yeah,
correct. There you go.
Yep.
So now, after all this has happened, he is definitely shown up on Sidious's radar. This is the point where Sidious is like, okay, this is getting out of hand. So unfortunately, Sidious makes it a special trip to go to Mandalore and say hey to his old apprentice Maul and his brother Opress, and they get into a triple threat match, or a 2-on-1 handicap match, should I say. And it wasn't really handicapped. Sidious at that point really showcased that if you thought he was skillful in episode 3 when he took on all of those Jedis at once, you ain't seen nothing yet, because Sidious not only can use one saber, but he can use 2, and he can use both of them at the same time just as well as the other. And
you could really see how little experience Savage had, because anytime Sidious was fighting him, he was toying with him. Right. It was Maul and Sidious. They were fighting. Savage was more there for
absolutely.
I would say a distraction, just about.
Yeah, absolutely. Just complete support. At that point, to which
Maul got some hits on him even.
We're getting into that. So because unfortunately, this is where Savage meets his fatal end due to the both ends. I think he almost hits him with a similar move that Maul hit Qui-Gon with, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a very similar move where a kind of flourish, and he thrusts the saber behind into Savage's chest, then throwing him down into the open area. To which then Maul goes after Savage, and at that point Maul has reached his peak anger. And this is where Maul actually shows, some ferocity. Maul and Sidious then go at it 1-on-1, and for about, I might be overemphasizing it just because I love my guy Maul here, but he was backing down Sidious for about a good 10 seconds. It was to the point where Sidious was like, okay, I'm gonna actually have to start trying. But let me put the sabers away. And now because when the electricity came out, that's when, unfortunately, I think from all the years that Palpatine had been shocking Maul with that for the training purposes, he had Maul's number and knew how to take him out, just to easily stop him. So any bit of electricity was just enough to throw Maul off his game. And after getting back down for a few strokes of the saber, Sidious said, all right, we're done playing games, and decided to completely shock and devastate Maul, and ended up basically winning the bout that way. He didn't finish off Maul because he had better plans for him, to which it isn't seen in the Clone Wars. It actually gets featured in a comic series, to which Maul is captured and then later escapes captivity from both Sidious and Dooku. Very interesting arc. If you ever get a chance to read, I haven't had a chance to read into it, but I've read through it, or as far as like over it, and I would definitely like to myself, because I believe it ends up coming to a altercation between Maul and Grievous, to which Maul ends up beating Grievous, or at least getting by him. So I would obviously love to see that interaction between those two characters, who I don't believe ever had an interaction between each other,
Nope.
at least on the screen. So with that being said, we don't see Maul again until when is it?
Until the last season of the Clone Wars, which he is back on Mandalore, and he devises a plan to get Obi-Wan and Anakin to come, and so he can destroy both of them, or at least Anakin was his primary target,
right?
To deprive Sidious of his future pupil, which he had the vision of. So Maul is where like I really like kind of admire the character of Maul, because he was so one
of the most intuitive.
Yeah, very intuitive, and like he went from this guy, the very ferocious fighter, a Sith assassin, to this very, I would say he's one of the wiser characters as he got older.
Yeah, as far as like to be able to stop and think about it, because he had many years to think about it. He might have been quite insane, but by the time he had a clear mind to think about it, he was like, wow, this is all literally been happening. He's one of the very few characters to realize that it was happening all underneath everyone's noses. And not only that it was, but potentially what it was, because he was right behind, understanding what was going on almost.
Yeah. And not to dive too deep into the season 7, just because it's such a good season, and those episodes right there at the end, basically him and Ahsoka have a duel. He wanted to join up with her to go take down Sidious. Just because Anakin didn't show up, he kind of improvised and tried to get her in instead. They have a duel. He gets captured, and Order 66 ensues, and chaos within the clones, getting transported back to Coruscant. He escapes, or well, she actually lets him out.
It's kind of like a fair off, you get out of here, I get out of here, don't ever let me see you again kind of thing.
And long story short, he escapes, and that is the end we see of Maul for a very, very long time. And the next time the next time we see him is very far into the future.
Well, we do get a tidbit of him. We do get a tidbit of him in Solo.
We do. That is right.
The very tail end of Solo, we do get a very awesome treat there at the very end, where Han Solo's, his mistress, supposed to go, for lack of better words, Kira, basically has been basically in contact with the now, is he the leader of Crimson Dawn at this point?
Paul is the leader of Crimson Dawn. I believe Kira was answering to Drayden Voss, and then once he got killed, Kira was like the next one that Maul was going to contact. So
so basically, Kira was to take Drayden Voss's place, and be the next contact for Maul.
So we get we get a nice taste of that.
Yeah, so that may be featured again in the future, hopefully, but we can see some more about that. But Maul, like you were saying, isn't really directly featured again heavily until many, many years into the future, and that will be in the Rebels animated series. Right?
Yep, that's right. He is on Malachor. That's where we find him at the at that big it's like a holocron type. It's a humongous like temple.
Now, did he ever see the holocron, the Jedi holocron?
Yes.
And that's what gives him the idea, correct, that there's two Force users that's potentially Luke and Leia, right?
I believe so. I'd have to watch it again. It's been a long time since I've watched.
I've loosely seen that scene, and I need to myself, like you're saying, to revisit and watch it.
Yeah. But he's there, and he actually teams up with our heroes from Rebels and Ahsoka as well, to take down the Galactic Empire Inquisitors,
Right.
Because they're all after the same thing on Malachor. And he wants to take Ezra Bridger as his apprentice. So we see him like just trying to toy with Ezra a lot, and he's very wise at this point, and he knows everything going on. Even though his obvious Crimson Dawn has fallen by this point, because he is pretty much like on his own.
Yeah, but Maul at this point is at like on his complete own. He's lost everything. No Crimson Dawn, no Mandalore. Savage is dead. At this point, all he has is, I mean, there's only one thing he has left to do, and that's to avenge what essentially started all of this for him.
He basically, him and Ezra, they join a Sith holocron and Jedi holocron together, and they both see visions. And his vision was that Obi-Wan Kenobi still lived.
Right. And at that point, he knew what he had to do.
And he went hunting down Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he found
the last final time.
Full circle.
Yep.
So you can take this away when he meets Obi-Wan.
Made me want to cry. So he finally figures out that Obi-Wan is on Tatooine. Yeah, after tracking him down, and as soon as he steps foot on the sand of Tatooine, he knows he's there. Yeah, he just feels his presence, and you really get the voice actor who played Darth Maul, Sam Witwer, does an amazing job during these few episodes, showcasing the true, just the hatred / excitement that he's finally, it's like a dog chasing cars. It's like he's finally got it. Like he's finally there to Obi-Wan after all these years. And, this is where you get the infamous Kenobi.
That was good.
He screams Kenobi as loud to the point where Obi-Wan probably heard him.
He had to have sensed him.
Yeah, or definitely sensed him or felt it. So anyways, Maul is on the planet of Tatooine. He's tracking down Obi-Wan, to which then he finally finds him. And this is like, if anyone's seen any traditional samurai battle, as far as like an entire movie, an entire series, saga leading up to these two samurai warriors doing battle, this completely paints that picture better than I believe any duel in Star Wars history. Some people complain that it's, a lack of better word, short, but I believe the story that it paints is true poetic justice.
There's a lot of details in that fight.
So they meet each other, and this is in the night, and amongst the campfire that Obi-Wan built. There's a beautiful scene, and they have a few words back and forth, and it's almost like both of them have accepted that this is the end for one of us. Almost the feel you get for it.
It was almost a respect there for each other. Yeah. Almost like
Obi-Wan was like
old rivals, come to a head.
Yeah, like if it's gonna end one way, okay, fine. You can take me out. You can take me out. Okay, whatever. So there they are, standing amongst each other in the nightlight, the moonlight, and the fire, and there it happens within a second. Just a nice flash back and forth, and before you know it, Maul is down to his knees, and Obi-Wan turns off his saber and catches Maul and takes him right down to his knee, and they have a few words with each other. And what happened within that flash is essentially Maul went for the move instantly. He went for the killing blow instantly. Maul had waited so long, he couldn't help himself, and he instantly went for the killing blow, which Obi-Wan predicted, to which he had a perfect counter to that killing blow, to which then flourished around and then sliced Maul right down the chest, enough to, causing a fatal blow. So while holding Maul, they have a very, very, sincere moment, and, like you were saying, out of respect. And it's Maul at that point completely accepts his death. And
it was very poetic. It was very poetic.
And there he goes. And that is your character deep dive on my man Darth Maul from beginning to end. I hope you guys, that is basically, of course, there's a few details here and there that we could have gotten into to shed a little bit more light on things. But for the grand scheme of things, from beginning to end, those are some very, very important events and milestones within Maul's life that take place, and that really showcases the character from beginning to end and arcs in between. So if you have any more to add about Darth Maul or anything in between, let us know below. Hit us up on Twitter about it. If you guys have anything you'd like to say about Maul, or who you think character matchups he'd do well against, or match up against, just let us know, and shoot us a message in the Twitter or the YouTube comments below. But with that being said, that's our deep dive of the week. Speaking of Twitter, make sure to follow the Twitter down below, and we'll be doing our polls for deep dives of the week to see who you guys want to do our deep dives on. So it'll be amongst usually 4 or 5 characters we put out there, and we let you guys vote amongst it. Otherwise, you guys can always post the comments, to see who you guys want to do, and we can take those comments and put them into the polls themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the whole point of our Twitter, just to let you guys be able to interact with what's going on. That's going to wrap up our character deep dive of the week and lead us into our final segment. And this is where it's going to get hot and heavy, because we've only briefly talked about who's facing who this week. And
very briefly.
I can already get a sense by using the Force. Yes, I can already get the sense using the Force that it's gonna, be like this.
It's gonna be a good. It's gonna be a good conversation.
Said, Nate, I want you to go ahead and introduce. Yes, it is, most certainly. And with that being said, character deep dive is over, leading us straight in to our matchup of the day. All right, guys, here we are with our matchup of the day, and I'm really ready for this one. Hope you guys are as well, because this is going to be a really exciting one. We're taking this time. Last week, we had our Han Solo versus Poe Dameron in a really close back and forth, but at the end of the day, we decided to settle on Han Solo being the victor between the two. This week, we're looking at a really, really intense matchup. This is by 2 Force-sensitive users who also know how to skillfully use a lightsaber, maybe 2 sabers. But when it comes to these 2 characters, we have on the left and the right. On the left, we have Ahsoka Tano, and on the right, we have Cal Kestis. So Ahsoka Tano and Cal Kestis. Who wins? How do they win? Why do they win? What are you thinking? What are you thinking, Nate?
Well, let's get into it.
And we're going to go ahead for the time period, Ahsoka. We're going to go ahead and say the same time period that we're going to say post Order 66, basically the Fallen Order time period.
Okay.
So the time period that we know Cal Kestis, because just for based off of lore, because this is all the material we have of Cal Kestis is during the time period of Fallen Order. Of course, we have him as a child, but we're not going to match him up as a child, so we'll have him during the events of Fallen Order versus Ahsoka during that time period. So between episodes 3 and 4, Ahsoka versus Cal Kestis. Who do you think wins?
It's very interesting because they both have very similar things happen to them. They have to hide.
Absolutely.
They have to hide who they are after Order 66 for a while. So they're both of their skills as a Jedi or Force user, because Ahsoka technically isn't a Jedi.
Right. One could consider her a way seeker. A term introduced in the new High Republic series.
Absolutely.
Basically, for a lack of better words, a person who has good morals but is not a part of the Jedi Order.
Correct.
Jedi Order. Yes.
Correct. So she has him on age by a little bit.
A few years, right?
I think it's about 4 years. Because I looked at the time of Order 66, she was about 17, and Cal Kestis was about 13 or 14.
Okay. So during Fallen Order, she would probably be about 4 years older.
Yeah, so she's a little older than him. But obviously, each of them can take on Inquisitors and win.
Right.
both.
Ahsoka has taken on Inquisitors, hasn't she?
Yep, and is showcased in Rebels that she takes on Inquisitors more than once, as
Okay.
did Cal Kestis, because he took on the second sister, and what was the other sister that he took on? Was it
the ninth sister?
Was it a ninth? It was a ninth. That's right. And then he took on Vader himself, as we saw.
Now, we're gonna compare. Like, it's hard to compare, but Ahsoka also took on Vader. Who would you say did better in their face-off against?
I would 100% say Ahsoka.
Yes, because it seemed almost like a horror movie when Vader showed up in Fallen Order.
Yeah,
and it was everything Cal could do to not face him, but escape him.
Run from him. Yep.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka was a lot more. She knew since she wasn't a Jedi, I think she had like kind of both sides in her mind a little bit, and to some degree, because she wasn't fully a Jedi, obviously.
Right.
So she kind of had that going for her a little bit, that she wasn't loyal to any one side. Even though, like you said, she was her mindset was good. But I honestly think, I mean, that's an interesting point, and it may be based on how they did against Vader alone that Ahsoka may take it.
See that like, I hate to base it off of that, like, because Vader, like, do you think Vader was able to completely recognize that was Ahsoka and his former apprentice? And
based off some lines he said in Rebels, he 100%. Like,
okay. So there was no chance that Vader was kind of, like, for a lack of better words, taking it easy on Ahsoka.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, there could be arguments said that he might. There's probably some that he couldn't, or that he didn't.
I'd like to believe that. I don't think he was actually taking it too easy on her. Like, I don't think he was taking it as easy on her as he did on Luke on episode 6.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I'll say that. But I mean, I feel like Cal, he was going after Cal. Like,
oh yeah, he had something that Vader wanted.
Right. Yeah. At that point, though, like, he didn't know Cal. There was no need for him to inquire anything about him besides getting the actual hologram. So, I mean, Vader, really tried to kill Cal multiple times, or within a small frame of time, and Cal was able to narrowly escape, multiple, but Cal was able to get away along with everyone else,
right. The thing is, it never showed Ahsoka's fate for certain after the Vader fight. I mean, assuming everyone here's seen Rebels, you truly never find out what exactly happened, because she that whole kind of timeline of her fighting Vader kind of got erased to some extent. But based off of how much experience she had in the Clone Wars during Order 66, and she went through all this stuff leading up to where they were around the same timeline during Rebels, all that. I personally think Ahsoka takes it, based on experience alone.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm a huge Cal Kestis fan, I really am, more so than Ahsoka, if I had to, be honest and frank with you.
Can't agree with that.
But based off of a very important, point that you just said, the experience and the training, the fact that, Ahsoka actually did most of her training and was actually able to complete most of her training under, Jedi leadership, and under the likes of Anakin Skywalker, and around the likes of Yoda, Master Windu, Obi-Wan, all these people, all these great figures. So she had much run-ins with all these great figures, which Cal may have as well, but he was at a younger age, which he was more likely to be very close with his master. I forget his name.
To Paul, I believe. Was it?
That's right. So he was very close with his direct master, but I don't think based off of what we see depicted, he had much, run-ins. I mean, he probably knew Yoda. Yoda had a very,
Yeah,
influential touch with all the younglings.
yeah,
But
yeah. So again, it's you don't know for certain how much run-ins with
Cal
other
really
like
had,
yeah,
the Cal really had the opportunity to battle with these Jedi's, during a very important, because, during that, the Clone Wars army, or excuse me, the Clone Wars battles, that was one of the last times that the Jedi's really battled in a
mhm.
large group level. So, I mean, and Ahsoka was a part of that. So, with that being said, that gives Ahsoka a huge advantage as far as, saber on saber combat, being familiar with that style. I mean, Ahsoka has taken on the likes of Asajj Ventress. She's withstood General Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she's basically, also withstood Count Dooku in certain exchanges. Did her and Dooku ever have a one-on-one?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm my mind's racing to try and remember.
I don't
I
think they
I
did,
really don't think so. They may
but
have
but
had
like
interactions, but I don't
but
think.
she's definitely had interactions with a lot of saber wielding characters. Um, Whereas Cal has legitimately only faced, I believe, if not two Inquisitors,
And
and of course
Vader,
Vader. Yeah, and Vader.
which their
Which
lightsabers didn't even clash there.
right, yeah, very true. So I mean, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say I agree that Ahsoka. What you got?
We missed a character that Cal has come into.
What's
That
that?
he's battled Malicos.
That's right. He does battle a former Sith,
Former
or
Jedi,
a
I believe.
that's right, former Jedi who
Taron
turned
Malicos.
Sith. That's right, and that is on the planet of Dathomir. To which, I mean, at the same time though, Cal actually doesn't really truly defeat him though. Cal like basically withstands him, and then Night Sister Marin has to basically come in and be like, "All right, I'm gonna sink you into the floor," and and
Bye.
yeah, and then he's gone. So yes, Cal does a great performance with withstanding against him, but I think it's one of those things where if Cal probably would have had maybe a few more training, a few more years of training under the Jedi leadership, he'd be right there with Ahsoka. But I think those years of difference really make it the difference. If you have to ask me who has the better saber, which I always say Cal Kestis probably has the best saber in all of Star Wars.
It's very cool looking.
Well, I mean, not only that, I mean, it's a double bladed saber, and also boop, you can connect or disconnect it, and you have two sabers.
Yep.
So, which I mean, he predominantly uses it typically as one saber, but he has the capability of, at any time switching to a double blade. But for lack of better words, we're gonna go ahead and call it right down the middle. Ahsoka Tano defeats Cal Kestis 1-on-1. So, congratulations, Ahsoka, you got it in this one in our second matchup of the day. So let us know in the comments below who you think won. If you guys agree, if you guys disagree, if you guys think he would have won for this reason or she would have won for that reason, we want to know what you have to say, because that's what's important to us.
And look out on Twitter for the poll on this matchup as well.
Yes, most definitely. We'll also see all the numbers, all the statistics, everything you guys want to put into it. We want to see what it's all about. So with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap up our matchup of the day and wrap up our episode of the day and or night, wherever you guys are in the world. We just want to take the time to appreciate all this, the viewership that you guys put into watching us, taking the time to check us out. It means so much to us. I know I can speak on the behalf of both of us because, for how much time we put into this. And but the thing is that it doesn't go without saying we enjoy every second going into it, because this is information that we love talking about on a daily basis, and we love even more so being able to talk to you guys about it.
Yes, we do. We really appreciate it. Again, y'all check out our Twitter. Y'all check out DJ down below, SoundCloud link.
Yes.
Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks for the interactions.
Yes.
Be on the lookout for all our polls for the next deep dive and other questions that we'll go over and talk about. Send us any questions about anything regarding Star Wars.
Right.
We'll
make
be
sure
looking
if you're
forward.
interested in the content. Yeah, and just hit that bell, because I mean,
absolutely.
you gotta know when these episodes are coming out. Make sure you got the notifications turned on. Subscribe if you liked what you saw, And, with that being said, we've enjoyed this episode and we hope you guys have as well. And we'll be sure to catch you guys around for the next one. Let us guys know in the comment section below what you guys think about potentially doing separate matchup of the day episodes, because we're thinking we'd like to do that separate because, that gives us a lot of fair time to talk about the characters that we love and we love to talk about and give a lot of good light on their stories and where they start and where they end. So let us guys know if you guys are interested in potentially doing matchup of the day episodes solely, because I think we're actually potentially aiming to do so when it comes to that. But with that all being said, this has been a good ride. So I thank you guys again for taking the time to check us out. And this has been the Skyguys signing out. Peace out, fellas.